What is up, Facebook world? This is Kimberly and Connor Tracy over here at Big Red SEO, tuning in for our episode 112. Super excited. We also have Miss Bailey's here, our English Bulldog. She's asleep down below us, but she wants to be part of the videos. And I think since we moved the studio into our home area, she has actually been part of every single video, which is kind of cool. She naps, we talk, we yell, we scream, we laugh. She naps more, she snores. Sometimes she passes gas. Every once in a while you'll hear it because we'll start chuckling. But anyway, it is just life in general, right? So today we wanted to tune in with you guys and kind of bring a different agenda. Normally we talk about WordPress or SEO, or sometimes we give business consulting and coaching. We help with some marketing strategies, but today we actually wanted to bring you into our personal world, not just as individuals, Kim and Connor, but as husband and wife, right? As well as being business owners, and kind of have more of a casual chat reflection of things that we've learned throughout the business, right? And as we have this dialogue and we reflect, it's kind of interesting how the sheet goes blank for a long time as you try to think of one thing that you've learned, because I feel like there's so many things, like it's been over 10 years, right? There's so many things that the sheet kind of stays blank and you hear crickets because you're like, what did I actually learn? And as Connor said in the previous title to share with you guys, some of the things we're still learning today that we thought we already did learn, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'm trying to be better at, and I think I need like a giant TV here now. So can we put that on the budget
list? A giant TV.
A giant TV so that I can read the names and not have to squint in. Carolina has joined us.
Hello. Hey, Carolina.
How you doing? A little rocky on the start here again, but I have new toys.
Yes.
Again, more new stuff. Now we get the Conor cam. And then we also have the Kim cam.
No, guys, no. He did not have approval for this. I told him no, because it's going to be like, don, don, don. You know, like in those movies where they do that? It's like, don, don, don.
Well, say something
like
dramatic.
Like a don, don, don. I couldn't think of anything else dramatic. I just keep saying the same thing over. If you're in my world, like you'll notice, like I'll try to say a word and I pronounce it incorrectly, and I'll keep saying the same pronunciation incorrectly every single time. So Connor just gets a broken record of me saying the same word the exact same time, but in my head I'm saying it differently and I'm trying to articulate it out, but it never happens.
There's a video I saw yesterday, and I'll link it here in the comments after this is all done. And I need to show you the video, but it's Kim on point. It's also kind of my little sister too. She does the same thing where you get so focused on one particular thing that nothing else actually matters and there's no change. But we can go down that road.
Yeah, it's super fun.
As Kim said, we did a little bit of homework, or we had our little chat or a little discussion of, what are we going to talk about or what are we going to do? And then we had some homework for each of us. So you came up with 3 things.
I did. Mine came like boom, boom, boom. And then as I went for a drive, I was like, oh, well, there's that thing. And oh, there's that thing. And oh, there's that thing. And oh, there's that thing. So I confess I might stick with my original 3, or I might pull the different ones in. I don't know. I don't know. I do know that we tried to condense it down to just 3 for time, right? But I can tell you, in 10 years of running a business, there's so much stuff. And then it depends. Is it that I learned this as a business owner as like Kim's part of the business, or husband and wife part of the business, or just the business in general, a project manager part of the business, web design part of the business, marketing part of the business, telesales, telemarketing. I mean, you could go anywhere, right?
And then at the same time, while Kim is there and she's got these 1,000 things that she's learned, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, I've got one.
Yeah, right. I got one.
It's not that I haven't learned things over the years. It's just what do you shift your focus to?
Right.
So anyway, so we're going to dig into that here. I guess right now, do you want the spotlight on you or
No,
no?
I didn't know, y'all. I didn't know he did the spotlight thing.
There you
So
go.
this is like, my pits are sweating. Like, it's good. He's stretching me outside of my box. He's making me uncomfortable. So it's good. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We're
Hi,
doing
lovely.
something a little bit different this week that you guys, in addition to the technology that's making my pits sweat. So we're doing things a little different in the fact that we are live on the Big Red SEO Facebook page, but we actually have activated watch parties as well, because Conor accidentally did this on purpose last week and a lot more people got exposure. So just the reason why I'm sharing this vulnerability for you guys is you might get accidentally invited into both. It's not intentional. We're not meaning to spam you. However, do take notes, because if you are doing Facebook Live in your business page, it might not be enough. You might actually have to activate a watch party on the separate for additional exposure. And we're testing this, so we'll for sure let you know down the road. Did it get more traffic, not more traffic? And it's less traffic, as in we don't want to spam people. We just want to let people know, hey, it's here and it's available. You can come at your own time and leisure, right? However, we are testing it, so you'll know if he's looking at a cell phone.
Hold up. You're still on zoomed in, so there we go. I'm back.
Oh my gosh! I'm like, I just need a moment, y'all. Can we just hit the pause button a moment? He's freaking out because he knows he's gonna get it later.
I know I'm in trouble.
He knows.
I know I'm not getting dinner.
Or you are. You're actually going to get your own dinner. Like, you're going to get your own dinner.
Maybe it's that.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, yeah. So let's see how that all goes.
Okay. All right. So
serious time.
If we're Tracy's, there's never serious time. Okay, so here's my number one thing that I learned in business, and it's a tad bit abstract, so I'll try to pull it into a clean grid so you guys get it, right? Number one thing I learned was I am not my business. So let me explain this, because some of my teachings say that yes, you are my business. Like me, Kimberly Tracy, is an LLC, right? However, I am not Big Red SEO, and what I mean by this is I'm not Big Red SEO 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time. I'm on, doing work all the time, like da-da-da-da-da. The reason why I'm breaking this down for you guys is, and I'll speak for myself, but Conor blends into this. Mm-hmm. I'm very intentional about what I do and how I do it. I show up the best that I can every single moment. If I show up and I'm not my best, I voice it. I figure out how to change it and shift it. Some days I go for a walk in a car ride. Other days I go and I meditate, right? Some days I dive deeper into work. Other days I completely step away from work because mentally it's not there. But my point and my intention is that I am not living to work. I am I'm working to live, if that makes sense. So me working blends and it's part of my life to the point where I work whenever I want to work, and I've got project work, and then I know when to step back and step away, right? But my younger self as a business owner didn't know this, right? So I was on all the time in business. I was, and I think sometimes what happens is, and I'll speak for myself, and if it resonates, cool for you. If not, don't take it, right? But I would always hear this, your first 1 to 3 years of your business, you got to hustle a lot harder. You got to work a lot harder to ramp things up and da-da-da-da, et cetera, et cetera. So I always felt like I always had to work. I always had to work to prove or work to get clients, and I would overcompensate and I would over deliver and get underpaid. I would give extreme discounts to be able to get work on the books, because it was like, well, I'm not successful if I don't have work on the books, and my value wasn't really in that whole equation, right? But I remember going in and feeling like I had to work on Saturdays and Sundays to catch up on the week that was coming up, right? Mm-hmm. And then it was kind of interesting because when Conor and I first started dating, he owned a web hosting company. He worked all the time.
All the time.
I think this was one of the things, to toot my own horn, that he was attracted to, for me, was I was okay with him having to work, and I would bob and weave and be fluid around his schedule, right? And I remember at one point, we would have to drive separate cars to the grocery store, guys. Because if he got a page text that a server was down, he had to leave. He was like, here's cash, boom, check out, I'll see you at home, gotta go. And so when I first started the business, I thought I had to work all the time. And this guy, he still ran his web hosting company. Yes, and he dabbled into the Big Red SEO and helps me launch that. But he actually saw less and less of me because I was always in the work, right? So I really got into the mud of the first 1 to 5 years of Big Red SEO. I became the business, and that was all that happened, right?
We had several chats along the way that, you need to stop working. I mean, some of the times
Yep.
you'd still be working at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yep.
and I'm like, all right, it's time for you to go
Yeah.
to bed. I need my quiet time. I need to watch my TV for the 30 minutes or whatever
or
happens
even get to
buy.
spend time with his wife, right?
Yeah, spending time with
because
you
we
too.
were newlyweds then too. So we launched the business as newlyweds. But in my brain, in my head, like I would pick up these business books, and it would be like, you have to do this, and then I picked up and watch a podcast, you have to do this, and it was like being where I am now. It was a lot of force and a lot of hustle, and I'm not saying that you don't do the things, right? Like sometimes some people need that, right? Like they need the discipline of doing the things. But what I would say is, stepping back, I have harnessed my gifts more and my talents more, right? In running the business, it's kind of interesting. Yes, I run the business and I have all the stuff. I have all my ducks in a row, and I have the business the way I want, the ethics the way I want, values, mission, all that jazz. We know where we're headed, right? However, I know that if I'm not actually present in my life, or I'm not taking care of myself, if I don't have self-care, self-management, the business doesn't go good, right? Like it just doesn't go good, right? And probably about 2 years ago, I activated where I would take off and I would go travel somewhere alone, and I would classify it as stealth mode, right? Like the only people that knew where I was more than likely Conor, unless sometimes, unless I posted it on social media, and then some people kind of knew, right? But I would go into this stealth mode, and then that's whenever it really transformed, that I let go of the backpack of the business. I let go of being a business owner. I let go of being a project manager. I even let go of being a wife. It wasn't that I wasn't married and present and I didn't go off and do naughty things, but I was taking care of me, and I had a backpack on my back, and I knew that I had food, watching video. I knew I had food, and I knew where to go to get water, and where to stay and all that jazz. And I kind of let all that stuff go. And then I think that's really whenever I learned the transition that I'm not my business, right? Like, yes, I operate the business, and yes, I'm building a legacy, but at the end of the day, I'm not my logo. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not the logo. I'm not the LLC.
So within all of that, there were two things.
That says play, so I don't know why that says play.
That just says play. Because Facebook doesn't understand how to do live streaming.
Okay.
Shock.
Okay, carry on.
Anyway,
this is what happens when he has new technology in front of me. I'm like, it says play. That means it's not recording.
The whole, yeah. Anyways. So with all the stuff that you've got, the two things that came up for me, and they tie almost directly into what you were talking about. One of the rules that I have just as myself was, I'd rather do nothing than sell my soul.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that not every job that comes along is something that I want to do.
Right.
Can I do video stuff? Sure. Can I set up a streaming thing for somebody else? Yeah. Would I be excited about doing it? No.
No.
Do I do video editing? Not really. Not to the level that other people do. It's kind of like logo design. Can I tell you what looks right? Sure. Can I build one for you?
Yeah.
No. Doesn't make me exciting. I don't want to learn the ins and outs of everything to do with Illustrator.
Yep.
I know what I need to know to get my job done, but not enough to get somebody else's job done, especially if it's a paying gig.
Right.
And I think that's an important designation too. I mean, I don't mind doing certain things, but if I'm being paid for it, I've got to give the professional result out of it. And, I'm just not passionate enough about it. So, as I said, I'd rather do nothing. I'd rather just sit and do absolutely nothing than take a job that I'm not going to be happy with.
Yeah, and I think that I love that one because guys, I can even relate to that. We had to learn this, right? Like, it wasn't just like we took some weird projects, not just weird. We took some projects that were not in alignment with us, our vision, our purpose. That were kind of like borderline shady, and we actually returned checks to people because we were like, we got to close. Bailey's kicking. We were like, we just got to close it. We got to get out of it. This is no longer aligning, right? And I remember specifically one prospect that was like, this is what we want, and they wanted us to do black hat SEO. And I think that was the strongest part, where Conor and I were both on the same page, and we were like, we don't do that. And they're like, no, you don't understand. This is the check and this is what I'm willing to pay you. And if the average person saw cash and they were like, yeah, just take it, it's money, right? But for us, it was the opposite of what we do.
Well, do you remember within like the first 6 months of running the business, we had a political campaign group that came to us. They wanted to run a smear campaign against somebody else. Now the opponent, they did do the things that that they accused them of, but they wanted SEO rankings enhanced to bring up those court records up to the top of the page whenever you searched for his name.
Yeah, it was super fascinating.
Ethically, it just didn't align with us.
And they actually, like, there for a while, they came back, somebody else came back and they wanted us to do a smear campaign against their competitors, right? So I love that, right? Because I think that goes along where I think a lot of times in business, especially as business owners, if you have bills stacking and you have past due stuff going, not to get into the drama of life, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have that and somebody says, hey, I'm willing to pay a lot of times I hear people say, well, it's just business, or business is business, or it's money, or it doesn't matter who it is or what they want, just it's cash, right? And I personally don't align with that. I know that you don't, right?
Right. And I have over the years, I've repeated the phrase of it's just business, it's not personal.
Yeah.
And I align with that a lot. But even when I was chatting with you about that, there's things that I do in business that become personal. If I'm programming things, if I can't get something to work, or if I'm just down a rabbit hole on stuff that it's not doing what I need, my stomach goes in knots.
Yeah. And it's
so
interesting because, like, at the very beginning, just to share a real raw inside view, he said that, like, as we're reflecting, he says it's just business, not personal. And you actually believe, like, his thought process was he believed that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, just a second. Like, it's not, though. And we actually walked through, and I'm like, well, Conor, when you do code and you can't figure out the code, you can't figure out the solution to the problem, his stomach hurts, or he doesn't feel good, or he gets frustrated. And at that point, that's when we're taking it personal, right? Like, I think
but there's some levels, like there's some people that I've worked with over the years with friends that were not the ideal fit, and then that is a business decision. That is not a personal decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I completely, on that side of things, I agree.
Yeah, so in here, like, I would say the easiest way to grid this up is that, like, say somebody wants us to do a website design and we quote it out. We know our worth, right? We know what it takes. We know hours, how much it takes. Mm-hmm. We also know that we roll up our sleeves and we handhold people all the way through the process based on what capacity do they need us, right? And we always wind up becoming more than just website designers for them, right? We become sounding boards. We help them with strategy. We help pick their brain, or take all of these ideas and harness it into one clean, clear message or channel, right? Mm-hmm. So it's way beyond just here's the dollar amount and this is what it is, right? So if somebody just decides not to pick us based on pricing and they go with somebody else cheaper, we actually don't take it personally. We're like, hey, cool, we're glad we got somebody in your budget. And in the same breath, we also know this is what we're worth and this is how we're going to show up. This is how we're going to take your business and your vision to the next level. And it's cool if people just want to look at nickels and dimes. It's cool. We get that. So at that point, I'd say that's business, not personal. We understand it. If somebody says no to us, we don't try to hackle them in or change and maneuver those, right? I did that in corporate America. I remember that. It always felt like I needed to take a shower afterwards. So we don't do that, right? Again, that comes down to selling the soul, right? We would rather not have business and not have projects than to sell our soul and try and squeeze and manipulate somebody into something that's not for the highest good of anybody involved, right? I loved that. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I did the watch party. Did you do the watch party?
I turned on a watch party.
Yeah, I think you have to invite people. I invited a couple people.
Okay. So I think all three things are covered on my list. I know we're running up on time.
I just did one. So you just blared right through all of them.
I'm just going to cover my three items one more time, and we'll verify.
It's interesting. I thought we were doing one, and Conor did. I did one, and he did three.
We were doing one and one, but it's all blended into one. So here's what I wrote down. So I'd rather do nothing than sell my soul, which we've covered, right? Focus on the things that make you happy. For instance, I don't like selling.
Yeah.
So Kim is okay with selling.
Here's the deal, though. He's good at selling.
I'm good at selling. I just don't like it. Everything about it, I just don't like. And again, so focus on the things that make you happy. I talked about the video and the Adobe Illustrator and stuff like that. So all of that falls in line there. And then the other thing for me is food is important. So,
this is what you learned in business.
Now the food is important can be inserted with breaks are important.
Yeah.
And you covered this at the very beginning that you have to take a break. You have to change environment. You have to go for a drive. So in all of that, my 3 things.
He's done. He's like, yeah, I'm done, lady. Like, look, I just blasted through. Like, did you see how cool that was? Yes. Okay, awesome. That's
4 minutes, wrap it up.
Okay, so my next thing. So number one thing was that I'm not my business, right? Like, in it's abstract. So you will definitely have to rewind and listen at the very beginning. If you resonate with it, cool. It's the biggest lesson that I learned, right? So what that means in a reflection high end is if the business fails, my life's not going to fail, right? Like that's the seed of the tree that's being planted, right? Because at one point when the business failed, I felt like my life was failing and it was fucking miserable and I had 4 burnouts and a bunch of blame, shame, and guilt. It's not worth it, y'all.
Yep.
Okay, so my next thing is systems are my friend.
Finally.
Okay. Y'all, I am a pen and paper person. I love taking notes. I love making lists. I love crossing things off. I love highlighting things. I love just writing things down, and I operate off of law and order. So I love organizing things and project managing things and da-da-da-da-da, et cetera, et cetera. It took me so long to make systems my friend. And what this means is the Google Calendar, the Calendarly, the project management software. I always used a project management software, even in my sales way back in corporate, because I would have to track calls. And if you didn't have calls tracked, then you had no proof that you were making calls or doing client meetings, quotes, proposals, stuff like that. So I always used those. But the thing that I would fight against all the time was actually tracking my time, right? And I can't remember how many conversations Conor would have a come to Jesus conversation to be like, you don't know how much work you can do if you don't track your time, right? Because I would always be busy, again, whenever I was operating from I was my business. I would be working all the time and doing all these projects. And yeah, there was money in the bank. We were growing. However, I couldn't tell you how long a design project would take. Like whenever I was bidding out design projects, I didn't know hours, right? I was just like...
Had an idea.
I had an idea, but if we went over budget, I was like, fuck it, we'll just lose money. It's not a profit. Just get the job done. And I can't remember how many times, Conor, I'd be like, just fix the website. Like, just get it built, get it done, right? And then I would say I slowly but surely started to lean into the time tracking, but then I resisted it for quite a while. And I would use it here and there and here and there. Well, since the beginning of 2020, I started tracking my time, guys, and I've always been able to produce a lot and keep things going. However, now I actually see, I'm like, holy shit, as a human, I do a lot of things and I don't want to get overwhelmed with that. But now I know, okay, I can take this many projects within this time frame. I can do this much within this time frame. Yeah. This is what needs to happen cost-wise to make sure everything runs and operates. And I'm truthful with people that if we can onboard them immediately, we will, but we're not going to try and squeeze somebody in because I can literally look at the time tracked now, right?
And the project system that we use, basically it can project out. So it learns the habits and then projects out, well, you've got these other tasks still on your list and it should take this amount of time. Therefore,
absolutely,
20 hours next week is already gone.
I resisted it, right? And then just the systems in general, right? Like I now use Zoom for the video meetings, and then I record if they want them recorded, and I send them out. And then I now do email scripts. I still go in and personalize them, right? But for me, in an email, and it's kind of, I kind of fight this a little bit, but I go in and I still make it myself. Like, I really feel like every person we engage with needs to have our true intention and not just a script conversation. So I have grids and I have like templates to start with, but then I go in and I add their personal feel or personal touch, right? So I would say systems, like that's the one thing I learned the most. That's how I was able to automate certain stuff that needed to be automated. It's also, so if you guys have been following us for a while, as we grew at the beginning of our business, we used to outsource work, right? It's actually how we brought all of our work back in and we're able to keep doing what we're doing because we love having the control of it, right? We love being the two in the project. So systems were my friend. So the third one that I learned, which actually was my original number one, was it's okay to be paid what you're worth. It's okay to be paid your value.
Mm-hmm.
So when I very first started and we talked about bill rates and Conor was like, yeah, well, I'm not very good at the sales and da-da-da. And I was like, well, I can sell sand in a desert. Like I can do that. It's not a big deal. I've been doing it all my life. So whenever we blended in and tried to figure out the bill rate, like we started lowballing ourselves because the industry was lowballing in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was quite a lot of 2x4s that hit our heads, right? And a lot of times we sold our soul to get food on the table. And then slowly but surely we learned, right? No, that's not it. Yes, that is it. And I would say that one of the biggest things that I learned as a business owner is it's okay to get paid your value. Now, the thing is you can't just inflate what you think your value is. Like you can't say I'm going to get paid $500 an hour whenever in your body and your system you think you're only worth $25.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Right, but I'm worth 500. So.
No, so like, but the thing, but here's
But
my
yeah.
deal is like, yeah, you like you have to have the belief that you're worth that. You actually have to produce the work yourself that you're worth that.
You have to actually be worth it.
Yeah, and you have to be able to articulate your value and then somebody to believe that you are worth that because they're going to invest that. And I'm throwing this number out there just to throw it out there, right? But it's the difference between getting paid like $65 an hour, which we ran our business like that for quite a while, and that's what led to all of our burnouts, versus $125 to $150 an hour, all the way up to $5 to $1,000 an hour, right? Like there are some projects, depending on what the capacity is, we'll get paid that because we know the place to go and we know how to do it quick and fast, right? But I would say that one of the biggest lessons that I learned in running a business is that it's okay to get paid your value, right? And so like there's a couple situations stacked up where somebody actually told me that it wasn't okay to get paid that. And it was actually a prospect that was a borderline friend. Luckily for me, I was clean and clear enough to be like, that's an interesting observation. Okay, I gotta go. And my confidence was already still there. It wasn't about me at that point. It was about them and what they feel like they're worth getting paid and what they are making as a business owner and where their business is. And it was less about us, right?
There was a mention in there of, I can't pay you that. I don't even make that.
Yeah, it was an interesting language that was utilized. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, guys, like if you're running your business, you get to decide. Yes. And again, take what resonates, leave everything else. But what I would say is just because the industry is charging something doesn't mean that you can't charge that. Because here's the deal is when I decided to up our bill rate, we were the most expensive local SEO company in Omaha. Now, if you go look at our competitors, they're charging what we charged then. Right? Like
they do half the work.
Well, in that part, I don't care about that part, right? Like that's not the point. The point is that you can get paid what you deserve. You can get paid what you're worth. However, you also have to make sure that you produce it and that you're okay with getting paid that, right? And that all comes to mindset, beliefs, and all that jazz. Okay. But those were the three, and he's rushing me.
I'm rushing because I know the camera's going to turn off here any second.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys saw value for this. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will chat with you offline because clearly we're done.
Look, there's Kim one more time, okay?
Oh, hey guys, Felipe joined. Casey, thanks for joining. Loveline, love you guys. Have a great day. Oh my gosh, it was zoomed in. No, they're sweating again.
See ya.
All right, see you guys. Bye.